She watched in frozen horror as a dark stain spread across his shirt, his very expensive shirt. His probably cost more than her entire monthly rent shirt, and her 3-year-old daughter, still half asleep on his chest, had absolutely no idea what she had just done. Vivienne Beaumont stood in the private study of Gabriel Marchand, the most powerful man in the city, watching the physics of her catastrophe unfold in real time. Her daughter had just peed on a billionaire. Have you ever had a moment so catastrophically embarrassing that your brain actually offered you the option to simply cease existing? Like your soul tried to leave your body, and your body said, no, you have to stay here and experience this? That was Vivienne in this moment. 4 days into her new job as a janitor. 4 days of keeping her head down, following every rule, being invisible in the way poor people learn to be invisible in wealthy spaces. And now this. But here is the thing that still keeps her awake at night. Not from embarrassment anymore, from something else entirely. Something she was not prepared to feel, and could not have predicted if she had tried, because what Gabriel Marchand did next changed everything. And by the end of this story, you will understand why some accidents are not accidents at all, why some disasters are actually doors, and why a 3-year-old with pink sneakers and absolutely no respect for social hierarchy might just be the wisest person in this entire story. If you have ever felt like the universe was conspiring against you, hit that like button right now. Because this story is about to prove that sometimes the universe knows exactly what it is doing, even when it looks like everything is falling apart. Let me take you back, 72 hours before the incident that would change 3 lives forever. The alarm went off at 5:45 in the morning. Vivienne was already awake. She had been awake since 4, lying in the darkness of her tiny apartment, listening to her daughter breathe in the next room, counting the hours until she had to become someone else again. Someone invisible, someone quiet, someone who cleaned other people's homes and pretended she had never been anything more. She moved through her morning routine with the efficiency of a woman who had learned to survive on very little coffee, instant, because real coffee was a luxury now. Toast for herself, the heels of the bread, because the soft middle pieces were for Zara. A shower exactly 4 minutes long, because hot water cost money, and money was something she measured in minutes and seconds now. In the next room, Zara was still sleeping, 3 years old. 4. In February, curled up like a question mark under her blanket, one arm wrapped around a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. Her dark curls spread across the pillow like she was dreaming of something beautiful. Vivienne stood in the doorway and watched her daughter breathe. This was the moment of the day she allowed herself to feel things. Just this moment. Then she would put it all away again and become the version of herself that got through. Zara, her miracle, her reason, her tiny philosopher who spoke in full sentences at 14 months and had been holding entire conversations by 2. Her daughter, who looked at the world like it owed her an explanation, and she was fully prepared to wait until she got one. She had Vivienne's eyes, dark and deep, and always watching, but she had her father's confidence. That was the part that hurt to look at sometimes. The way Zara walked into rooms like she belonged there, like it had never occurred to her that someone might tell her otherwise. Her father had been like that, before everything fell apart. Vivienne pushed that thought away. She had become very good at pushing thoughts away, filing them in a drawer in her mind labeled, "Do not open," and moving on with her day. She had work. She had Zara. She had 90 days to get through before her probation ended, and her job became permanent, and she could finally breathe again. That was all that mattered now. Get through the day, then get through the next one, then the one after that. Eventually, enough days would stack up that they would become a life. A small life, a quiet life, but a life that belonged to her and Zara and no one else. She woke her daughter gently. Zara opened her eyes with the immediate alertness of someone who did not believe in wasting time on slow mornings. "Mama, it is morning. It is morning, baby. I am going to Madame Bertrand's house today. You are, and you are going to be very good and very cooperative, and not ask her too many questions about her cats." Zara considered this. "But she has 7 cats, Mama. Someone should ask questions about that." Vivienne bit back a smile. She could not afford to encourage this behavior. It would only make things harder. "Get dressed, love. We have to catch the bus." The Marchand estate sat on 12 acres of perfectly manicured grounds on the outskirts of the city. Vivian had seen photographs before she applied for the job, but photographs did not prepare you for the reality of it. The reality was that some people lived in houses that had more rooms than she had dollars in her bank account. The reality was that wealth on this scale was almost abstract. It stopped feeling like money and started feeling like a different species of existence. She entered through the staff entrance on the west side, past the security check, past the locker room where she changed into her uniform, past the supply closet where she collected her cart and her supplies and her invisibility, because that was the real uniform, wasn't it? Not the gray dress and the white apron, the invisibility, the ability to move through spaces without being seen, to clean around people as if she was furniture, to exist in wealthy spaces without ever making anyone uncomfortable, with a reminder that she existed at all. 4 days. She had been here 4 days, and she had already perfected it. "Good morning, Miss Beaumont." The voice came from behind her. Mrs. Park, the head housekeeper, a woman in her 60s with eyes that missed nothing and a surprising warmth beneath her professional exterior. "Good morning, Mrs. Park. West Wing today, 2nd and 3rd floors. Mr. Marchand is working from home, so the 4th floor is restricted. Do not go past the landing. Understood." Mrs. Park paused, studied her. "You are doing well. 4 days in, and no complaints. That is rare for new staff." Vivian felt something loosen slightly in her chest. "Thank you. Do not thank me yet. Get through 90 days, then we talk about thank you." But there was something in the older woman's face, something that looked almost like approval. Vivian took it and held on to it like a small flame. She would need every small flame she could find to get through this. Day 4 began like the others. Quiet, methodical, the rhythm of work that asked nothing of her except physical presence and attention to detail. She cleaned bathrooms that were larger than her entire apartment. She polished mirrors that probably cost more than her annual salary. She vacuumed carpets so thick and soft that she wanted to lie down on them and never get up. And she did not think that was the trick she had learned. Do not think about who you used to be. Do not think about the office in Paris with your name on the door. Do not think about the partnership you built from nothing. Do not think about Camille. Do not think about any of it. Just clean. Just move. Just survive. At 11:30, her phone buzzed. She was not supposed to have her phone on her during work hours, but she was a mother, and mothers learned to break rules quietly when the alternative was not being reachable in an emergency. The daycare number, her heart dropped. "Miss Beaumont, we have had an incident with our plumbing. We need to close for the rest of the day. Can you pick up Zara within the hour?" No. No, 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 no. She looked at her cart, at the hallway stretching ahead of her, still half uncleaned, at the clock on the wall telling her she had 5 more hours of work. Is there any way she can stay until... "I am sorry. We need all children picked up by 12:30. It is a health and safety issue." Of course it was. Of course this was happening. Of course the universe had chosen day 4, probation day 4, to remind her that nothing in her life was ever going to be simple. She thought about calling in sick. She thought about lying. She thought about all the things she could do to make this situation manageable. But she needed this job. She needed the money. And she could not afford to start lying on day 4, because lies had a way of compounding, and she had seen where that road ended. So she made a different decision. A terrible decision. The kind of decision that only makes sense when you are out of options and desperation is making your choices for you. She picked up Zara. She brought her back to the estate, and she told her to sit on the bench by the staff entrance and not move. "Stay here. Let me get your Pampers from the bag. Please do not go anywhere." Vivian said it the way she said most things these days. Quietly, quickly, with the particular urgency of a woman holding 17 things together at once. Zara was sitting on the bench, little legs swinging, not touching the floor, pink sneakers blinking with every swing, because Zara had insisted on light-up shoes and Vivian had not had the energy to argue. She looked very cooperative. She looked like she understood the importance of staying exactly where she was. "I will be right back, baby. Do not move." 3 minutes. She was gone for 3 minutes and 40 seconds. She counted later. 3 minutes to walk to the locker room, find the diaper bag, grab the Pampers, and walk back. When she returned, the bench was empty. The little legs were gone. The blinking shoes were gone. The bag of crackers she had left as a peace offering was still there, which meant Zara had not gone looking for food, which meant she had gone looking for something more interesting than food, which for Zara could be absolutely anything on this earth. Zara, normal volume first, because she was new here, because she could not afford to be the woman screaming in the hallways, because she was already breaking rules by having her daughter here at all, and she could not compound it with a scene. Zara, baby, where are you? Nothing. Just the hum of the elevator and a distant trolley 2 floors up. Vivian grabbed her cleaning cart and started moving. Supply room, empty. Staff bathroom, empty. East corridor, nothing but art that probably cost more than her entire life. She rode the elevator floor by floor, calling Zara's name in the tightest possible whisper that still technically counted as calling. Each empty room raised the stakes. Each silent corridor made her heart beat faster. 10 minutes. 10 full minutes of searching. And then she came around the corner of the 4th floor and stopped. The 4th floor. The restricted floor. The floor she had been explicitly told not to go past the landing. One pink sneaker sitting on the floor outside a large set of double doors, open just enough for a very small, determined person to have squeezed through. On the wall beside them, a small brass plate. Mr. Marchand, private study. Vivian's heart stopped, then started again. Too fast. She raised her hand to knock. Then she heard, very faintly, a small voice speaking French. The particular French that only Zara spoke. Vivian's French mixed with baby logic and complete grammatical confidence. She pushed the door open instead. Inside the room, behind a desk the size of a small country, sat Gabriel Marchand, 34 years old, CEO of Marchand Industries, hands in technology, real estate, and 6 other industries Vivian had not had time to research when she took this job. White shirt, top button open, dark hair slightly unstructured from hours of working since before sunrise, the kind of face that did what it wanted, regardless of what anyone around it was doing. But right now, that face was doing something she had not expected to see on a man like this. He was completely, entirely focused on the tiny person standing in front of his desk. Zara had walked straight up to him, past the bookshelves, past the leather chairs, as if she had an appointment, and she was holding out one pink sneaker, not her own foot, the shoe, held out with both hands, the way a person presents something important. Gabriel looked at the shoe, he looked at the child, he looked at the shoe again. Then he reached out, took it from her with both hands, came around from behind his desk, crouched down to her level, and put it on her foot. He tied it slowly, correctly, one loop, then the other, double knot, the kind of knot you tie for someone who is going to be running shortly. Zara watched this with enormous satisfaction. "You left one shoe outside," he said, looking up at her. She nodded. "Why?" Zara considered this with the seriousness of a philosopher addressing a complex ethical question. It was heavy. Something moved in his face that he did not fully control. "It was heavy," he repeated. "Both shoes is a lot," she said with complete seriousness. "I am very small." He stood up, went to the door, picked up the second shoe, came back, crouched down, and put it on her other foot. Double knot. Zara looked down at both feet, satisfied. She climbed onto the chair across from his desk, as if that part of the visit was concluded and they could move on. "You live here," she said. "I do. It is very big." "Yes." "Do you get lonely?" He paused, and in that pause, Vivian saw something flash across his face, something raw and quickly hidden. Board members had never asked him that question. Journalists had never asked it. Politicians and lawyers and every powerful person who sat across from that desk, none of them had ever thought to ask. But a 3-year-old in blinking pink sneakers had walked past every security protocol and asked the one question no one else had the courage to voice. "Sometimes," he said, "because she was 3, and she would know if he lied." "Me too," Zara said. "But I have my mom, so mostly not." She paused. "You should get a mom. I will consider it. Or a fish," she added, as if this was an equally valid option. "Fish are good when you are lonely. I do not have a fish." "I know," she said, with the gentle condescension of someone explaining something obvious to someone who should really know better. "That is why you are lonely." Gabriel Marchand sat back down and looked at this child for a long moment. and absolutely nothing about his expression was the expression he used in board meetings. He had not slept properly in 4 days. He had a shareholder meeting in 2 hours. He had a call with his mother at noon that he had been dreading because he knew what it was about. The arrangement with the Laurent family. The arrangement he had not agreed was necessary. The arrangement his mother had decided was the logical solution to a question he had not agreed was a question. And yet somehow in the next 11 minutes, between the shoe and the shareholder meeting, he sat in his own study while a 3-year-old French-Congolese child told him about fish and loneliness and why they were connected. She made a compelling argument, and at some point she climbed off the chair and climbed directly onto him, with the physical confidence of someone who had decided he was a safe place. She put her head against his chest. He sat with his hands raised slightly on either side of her, not knowing what to do. Then he put them down, one arm around her, gentle but secure, not because he had a plan, but because she was already asleep, and it seemed like the only reasonable thing. He had not meant to fall asleep himself. That part was not planned. Vivienne Beaumont opened the door to the private study, and the sound left her body completely. Her daughter, asleep on the chest of a man she had never met, in a leather chair behind a desk covered in very important papers, both pink sneakers blinking faintly in the afternoon light. Zara's little fist curled around the man's shirt collar like she was planning to stay forever, and the man, also asleep, head tipped slightly back, one arm around Zara with the careful instinct of someone who had, even in sleep, made sure she would not fall. Terror, relief, confusion, something else she was not going to name. Then terror again, louder. She was a janitor in this man's house. Her child had broken into his private study. She had been here 4 days. She needed this job. She needed it more than she had needed anything in a very long time. She crossed the room and reached for Zara. No, the word came low and immediate. She pulled her hands back like she had been burned. Gabriel Marchand was fully awake, fully looking at her with the directness of someone who did not have a slow waking up process. His arm was still around Zara. "Do not wake her," he said, entirely calm, as if this was a perfectly normal sentence in a perfectly normal situation. I am so sorry. I do not know how she got past the... Vivienne's voice was doing too many things at once. I am Vivienne Beaumont. I am on the cleaning staff. West Wing. I left her for 3 minutes. I swear. She introduced herself, he said. Zara. His voice, when he said her name, was something careful, something she could not quite identify. She speaks French, he said. Yes. First. Yes, she does. I am French. Please, I need to take her. I am so sorry for whatever she talked to me about fish. Vivienne stopped. For quite a long time, he continued, about fish and loneliness and why they are connected. He looked down at the top of Zara's head. She makes a compelling argument. She is 3. She does not fully understand. She understands very well. That part was clear. A silence fell between them. Vivienne standing, Gabriel sitting, Zara asleep between them, on his chest, like a bridge neither of them had asked for, but neither could deny. I need to take her, Vivienne said, more controlled now. She is not in her Pampers right now, and I need to... Her... What? Her diaper, Vivienne said. And even as the words came out, she felt the horror begin to build. She is not in a fresh diaper. I was getting her Pampers when she was already reaching into her bag, but it was too late. It was already too late. I need to take her now. It happened. Right now, I want you to think about the most unexpected person who ever showed you kindness. Someone who did not have to care but chose to anyway. Drop their first name in the comments. Let us see how many lives have been changed by strangers who showed up at exactly the right moment. And if you are new here, hit subscribe, because this story is just getting started, and you do not want to miss what happens next. Zara, deeply asleep, entirely peaceful, completely without guilt. Zara peed on Gabriel Marchand. The silence that followed was the loudest silence Vivienne had ever experienced. She yanked her daughter up off his chest, her face completely beyond her control. Oh my God. Oh my God. I am so sorry. It is fine. It is not fine. It is the opposite of fine. On your shirt. That is a very expensive shirt. I will pay for it. I will. She was holding Zara against her shoulder, fumbling for the Pampers with one hand, her words tumbling out faster than she could organize them. I will buy you a new shirt. I do not know what that shirt costs, but I will. I will figure it out. I will pay you back over time if I have to. Erste, Vivienne. Her name. He said her name. She stopped. He was looking at his shirt. Then at Zara, still entirely asleep on her mother's shoulder, unbothered by the chaos she had created. Then, at Vivienne. He reached up and touched her hand. She had been gesturing. She had not realized she was still gesturing, her hand moving in the air between them, conducting the orchestra of her panic. His hand closed over hers where it was moving, and everything in the room went very still. He looked at her. She looked at him. Something passed between them, clean and direct and completely unscheduled. The kind of thing that does not ask permission before it arrives. It is just a shirt, he said, very quietly. It is not just a shirt, she whispered. It is a shirt that my child peed on in your private study, on the 4th day of my job. The 4th day, the 4th day, he repeated, as if filing that away, and the other days were normal, comparatively. Something happened at the corner of his mouth, something that might have been the beginning of a smile if he had let it finish. So, this is normal for you, he said. This is a new level, she managed. Even for us. Zara stirred, blinked, looked at Gabriel with the total absence of embarrassment available only to people under 4. Hello, she said. Hello, he said back. I slept good. I noticed. She looked at his shirt. She looked at her mother. She looked at his shirt again. Even at 3, she seemed to grasp the physics of what had occurred. She patted his chest once, solemnly, the way a doctor pats a patient to say they will be fine. Sorry, she said. It is okay. Mom says sorry is not enough. You have to mean it. I believe you meant it. She nodded. I did. She put her head back on Vivienne's shoulder, apparently exhausted by the emotional labor of apologizing. You can keep the shoe you tied, she added, already closing her eyes, as a sorry present. Baby, he does not want your... I will keep it, he said. You are not keeping my child's shoe, Vivienne said. She offered it sincerely. She offered you a shoe she needs to walk with. I will have it framed. Vivienne looked at him. She genuinely could not tell if he was joking. His face was doing the thing she would come to learn it did often, perfectly composed on the surface, something warm moving just underneath, patient as anything, waiting for her to catch up. She changed Zara right there in the study, the most undignified 2 minutes of her adult life, while Gabriel Marchand turned to face his bookshelf and studied the spine of a book he had clearly already read many times. When she was done, she stood with Zara on her hip and said to the back of his head, I am sorry for all of it. The shoe, the study, the shirt, everything. He turned around. She could not look at his shirt. She looked at his face, which was marginally safer. Will you be in the West Wing tomorrow? He said. First, yes, West Wing rotation for the month. Good, he said. That was it. He turned back to his desk, picked up his pen, and pulled a paper toward him with the calm of a man who had made a decision and saw no reason to announce it. Vivienne carried Zara out and down the corridor and into the elevator and all the way out through the staff entrance. It was only on the pavement, with the late afternoon going on around her like nothing had happened, that she realized something strange. Gabriel Marchand had never once made her feel small, not when Zara appeared uninvited, not when she apologized 11 times in 4 minutes, not even when Zara... She still could not think about it, not even then. He had asked if she would be there tomorrow, like it was something he wanted to know. Mama, Zara said on the bus. Yes, baby. He had a kind face. Go to sleep, Zara. I already slept. Sleep again. That is not how sleeping works. I know, baby. He tied my shoes very nicely, Zara continued, inspecting her feet. Double knot. Papa never did double knot. Something cold moved through Vivienne at the word Papa. She did not let it show. She had become very good at not letting it show. And he should be my papa, Zara said, with the breezy certainty of a weather forecast. I have decided. You cannot just decide that. Why? Because that is not how people work. It should be, Zara said, and she put her head on Vivian's shoulder with the satisfied air of someone who had solved a problem and was now waiting for the adults to catch up. The next morning, Vivian arrived at 7:45 with her cart and a very firm internal speech about professionalism and context and the importance of not reading anything into anything. He was a billionaire. She was a janitor. He had been kind because he was apparently a kind person, which happened sometimes, even among the wealthy. It meant nothing. It changed nothing. She was on her knees polishing the baseboards in the sitting room when she heard footsteps. She did not look up. You did not bring her today. She looked up. Gabriel Marchand was in the doorway. Different shirt, dark blue, expensive, entirely unharmed, coffee cup in hand, expression of a man making conversation with complete intention. She is with a neighbor. I do not usually bring her. Yesterday was. Daycare had a situation. How old is she? 3, 4. In February. She talks like she is older. She has been speaking in full sentences since 14 months. My mother said it was unnatural. She had not meant to say that much. She turned back to the baseboard. Your mother is in France, he said. She stopped polishing. Is there something you need from this room, Mr. Marchand? I can come back if. I am having coffee, he said, entirely undisturbed. And he walked to the armchair in the corner and sat down and opened his newspaper. Vivian looked at him. He turned a page. He was simply sitting in the sitting room, which was technically exactly what sitting rooms were for. She turned back to the baseboard. They stayed like that for 20 minutes. Him reading, her cleaning, not speaking. The morning light coming through the west windows sideways and golden. It was, Vivian thought, the most companionable silence she had experienced in 2 years. She did not say this out loud. At 10:08, he stood, folded his newspaper, and said, There is a staff meal in the East Kitchen at 12:30. Hot food. You do not have to eat at your cart. I am fine at my cart. You have been eating at your cart for 4 days. How do you know that? He looked at her with the patience of a man who owned the building and received information about everything in it. 12:30, he said, and walked out. She ate at 12:30. Mrs. Park put a bowl of jjigae in front of her without asking and said, You eat everything. You are too thin. What is that accent? French. Congolese French. I have a cousin in Lyon, Mrs. Park said with the confidence of someone whose cousin being in Lyon explained everything. Eat. Vivian was on her second bowl when Gabriel came through with 2 folders, mildly startled to find his janitor at the staff table. The kitchen went 30% quieter. Mrs. Park put coffee in front of him without being asked. He sat, opened a folder, and said to it, There is a children's play area in the East Garden if she needs somewhere to be when daycare has situations. I am not bringing my daughter to work. You already have. That was an emergency. Emergencies happen. The garden is there. Gate locks from inside. She will not bother anyone. She bothered you quite significantly yesterday. She was fine, he said, simply, and returned to his folder, and Vivienne understood that was the end of it. Gabriel Marchand ended conversations by saying the final true thing and going quiet. She lasted 2 more weeks before daycare called again. She brought Zara. The garden was exactly as described. Locked gate, grass, a swing set that had clearly not been used in some time, but had been recently cleaned. She noticed the freshness of it, the absence of dust, and did not ask. Is Mr. Schumann a stranger? Zara asked, studying the house. His name is Mr. Marchand, and yes, he is still a stranger. I slept on him, Zara said. That is more than strangers. This was infuriatingly reasonable. Do not go inside, Vivian said, and went back to work. Gabriel found Zara in the garden at noon. He had a conference call at noon, but he came through the east corridor and looked out the window, and she was there, cross-legged on the grass, talking to something. A beetle. She was interviewing a beetle. In French, she had placed a small flower in front of it, apparently as payment. He was late to his conference call for the first time in 3 years. When Marcus, his assistant, came looking for him, they both stood at the window and watched. Should the first, Marcus started, push the call 15 minutes. Your noon is Director Laurent. He does not. 15 minutes, Marcus. At the end of the day, Vivienne collected Zara and found a small lunchbox that had not been there when she left. Mrs. Park's handwriting on the label. But the contents were things Vivian had mentioned, liking only once, in passing, to no one in particular, except maybe Marcus. Zara looked at it. Mr. Schumann sent lunch. We do not know that. I know that. I asked him this morning when he was at the window. You spoke to him through the window. I waved. He waved back. Then he did this. She mimed writing. And then the lunch came. She produced from her pocket a post-it note, folded twice, in very clean handwriting. The beetle went east. I watched. Gee, Vivian stared at the note. Then, at the house, the fourth-floor window was empty. He is funny, Zara said, taking back her note. Your ears go red. First what? Your ears go red when you do not want to talk about something, Zara added on the bus. They are red right now. They do not. They are red right now, Mama. Zara climbed the bus steps ahead of her with enormous satisfaction. Days turned into weeks. Weeks became a rhythm. Vivian would clean the west wing. Gabriel would appear wherever she was working, with coffee and a newspaper and no explanation. They would exist in the same space without speaking, and somehow that silence became the most honest conversation she had all day. He started asking questions about France, about Zara's father, about who she was before. She started answering, against her better judgment. Your mother is in France, he said one morning. That was not a question. She is. You do not talk about her. There is not much to talk about. He waited. He had learned that waiting worked better with her than asking. She thinks I ruined my life, Vivian said finally. Coming here, having Zara, leaving everything behind. Did you? She looked at him. He was watching her with that careful attention that always made her feel like she was being read. Some days, yes, she said. Most days, no. What makes the difference? Whether Zara is awake or asleep when I am deciding. He almost smiled. She saw it, the corner of his mouth moving before he stopped it. She is always awake, he said. She is always awake, Vivian confirmed. She has very strong opinions about consciousness. I have noticed. Have you? She told me yesterday that sleeping is just practicing being dead, and she prefers being alive. That sounds like her. She also told me that I should marry you. Vivian's hand slipped on the baseboard. She did not turn around. She is 3. She does not understand. She understands quite a lot, actually. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything neither of them was saying. She is trying to find a father, Vivian said finally, her voice carefully controlled. It is a developmental stage. Children her age often. I know what she is doing, Gabriel said. And then, after a pause, I am not opposed to the idea. Vivian turned around. He was looking at her with an expression she had never seen on his face before. Open, vulnerable, waiting. You do not know me, she said. I know that you speak 3 languages fluently, and you pretend you only speak 2. I know that you read Neruda when you think no one is watching. I know that you are not always cleaning houses for a living, and that whatever happened to change that is something you carry like a weight every single day. She stared at him. I know that your daughter inherited her courage from you, he continued, because only someone brave could have raised someone that fearless. And I know that I have spent the last 3 weeks finding reasons to be in whatever room you happen to be cleaning, because the 20 minutes I spend not talking to you are better than the rest of my entire day. Gabriel, I am not asking for anything, he said. I am just telling you what is true. That is how I end conversations. I say the true thing, and I stop talking. He picked up his newspaper, opened it, did not read it. The silence that followed was different from all the silences before. It was Thursday when the past walked through the front door. Vivienne was on the second-floor landing when she heard the voice, clear and deliberate, carrying the particular tone of a woman who had never needed to adjust her volume for anyone else's comfort. She froze. Miss Laurent, Mr. Marchand is expecting you in the main drawing room. Then the laugh. And something inside Vivian went very, very still. She knew that laugh. She had heard it in a shared apartment in Paris 5 years ago. Across a workspace, she and that woman had built together from nothing. 22 and 23. Full of an idea, they had grown from a napkin sketch into something real, something funded, something that was about to become the business that would change both their lives. She looked over the railing and saw her, Camille Laurent, 28 years old, immaculate cream coat, precise heels, hair as sharp as her ambition. She had not changed. She had improved. The way things improved when polished with someone else's effort. She did not look up. Vivian stepped back from the railing and made a firm decision that her hands were not going to shake. She had known Marchand Industries was connected to the Laurent family when she took this job. She had seen the name in the agency briefing documents and looked away and needed the money. It had not occurred to her that Camille would come here, to this house, through this door. But of course she would, because 5 years ago, Camille had taken everything, the business they built together, the funding they had secured. She had paid Vivian's boyfriend to end it, to manufacture a breakup dramatic enough that Vivian would leave the country, to clear the table of the only other person with a claim to what they had created. And then Camille had gone solo, with the resources, the contacts, the concept, everything, her name on all of it, her face in the magazines, while Vivienne was in Lyon with a newborn and no money and a broken understanding of what people were capable of. And now Camille was in this house as the future wife of the man who had sent Vivienne's daughter a note about a beetle. Vivian stood in the supply closet in the dark for 60 seconds, just breathing. Then she came out, straightened her uniform, and went back to work, because she needed this job more than she needed to feel anything at all. She had nearly made it to the far end of the second-floor corridor when Camille came up the stairs. They saw each other at the same moment. Camille's face went through 3 distinct expressions: shock, recognition, and then, settling like a mask, delighted surprise. Vivian, oh my God, is that you? The performance began immediately. The concerned friend, I have been trying to find you for years. What are you doing here? As if she did not see the uniform, the cart, the answer, I work here. Camille's eyes moved slowly over Vivian's gray dress and white apron, taking in every detail of her fall. How wonderful, Camille said, that you found something. Something, that was the word she chose. It pays the bills, Vivian said, voice flat. And your daughter? The one who came as such a surprise? How is she? Vivian's hands tightened on her cart. She is fine. Good, good. Camille stepped closer, lowered her voice. I am so glad you landed on your feet. Some people just, they crumble when things get hard. But you always were a survivor. The implication was clear. Some people are meant to clean. Some are meant to build. But what Camille said next made Vivian's blood run cold. I am here quite often now, Camille continued. Gabriel and I, our families have an arrangement. His mother adores me. She touched her hair. I suppose I will be seeing a lot more of you. If you are still here. Staff turnover is so high in these big houses. She smiled. But I am sure you will manage. You always did know how to make yourself useful. Vivian did not respond, could not respond. Camille leaned closer, whispered, do not even think about telling him who I am, who you are, what happened, because if you do, I will make sure you never work again, anywhere. I will make sure that beautiful little girl of yours grows up knowing her mother could not hold on to anything. She pulled back, smiled again. So lovely to see you, Vivian. Really, we should catch up properly sometime. And she walked away, down the corridor, toward the main drawing room, toward Gabriel, toward everything. Listen, if you have ever had someone from your past show up at the worst possible moment, you know exactly what Vivian is feeling right now. Hit that like button if you are rooting for her. Share this video with someone who needs to know that your past does not own your future. Now let me tell you what happens next. Vivian stopped lingering in rooms where Gabriel might appear. She stopped eating in the staff kitchen at 12:30. She stopped answering questions about France. She stopped everything. Gabriel noticed. Of course he noticed. He noticed everything. For a while, he said nothing, gave her space, waited for her to come back to herself. But the silence between them had changed. It was no longer companionable. It was painful, heavy with everything she could not say. You have been avoiding me, he said finally. One morning in the West Wing, standing in the doorway like he always did, coffee in hand, newspaper gone. I have been doing my job. You have been doing your job from different rooms at different times. I did not realize you tracked my schedule so closely. I track everything in this house. A pause. Some things more than others. She did not respond. Could not respond. Vivienne, what happened? Nothing. Something changed. 3 weeks ago, the day Camille came to the house, Vivienne's hands stilled on the window she was cleaning. It is nothing. It is not nothing. He stepped into the room, closed the door behind him. Tell me. There is nothing to tell. Then why can you not look at me? She turned around, forced herself to meet his eyes. Because some things are not mine to tell, she said, and some things would only make everything worse. Worse for who? For everyone. The silence stretched between them. Different from before. Charged. I do not believe you, he said quietly. You do not have to believe me. You just have to let me do my job. And if I do not want to, then we have a problem. We already have a problem, he said. The problem is that I care about you and your daughter, and whatever is happening right now, I want to help. You cannot help. Why not? Because the person who hurt me is the person your mother wants you to marry. The words hung in the air between them. Gabriel's face changed. Something cold moved through his eyes. What did you say? Camille Laurent. She was my business partner. 5 years ago, we built something together, and when it became valuable, she destroyed me to take it for herself. She paid my boyfriend to break up with me publicly enough that I left the country. She took everything, and I had nothing. Vivienne's voice was shaking now, but she could not stop. I came here with my daughter and nothing else. I took this job because I needed the money, and I did not realize she would be walking through your door. I did not know. I swear I did not know. Why did you not tell me? Because she threatened me. She said if I told you, she would make sure I never worked again. She would make sure Zara, Vivienne, could not finish. Gabriel crossed the room in 3 strides, took her hands, held them. Look at me. She looked. I believe you, he said. Every word. You do? I had my team look into her background weeks ago. Something about the way she talked about her past did not add up. The business she supposedly built alone. The timing of her success. The complete absence of any other names. He paused. Your name, Vivienne. Your name should have been on that company, and it was erased. You knew? I suspected. I did not know how to ask you. I did not know if you wanted me to know. Tears were streaming down her face now. She could not stop them. I lost everything, she whispered. Everything I built. Everything I was. No. He cupped her face in his hands. You did not lose yourself. You survived. You raised an extraordinary daughter. You showed up every single day and did the work in front of you, even when the work was beneath you, even when it cost you your pride. That is not losing. That is winning. Slowly, quietly, the way real winners actually win. She closed her eyes. What happens now? She asked. Now, he said, I end the arrangement with the Laurent family, and Camille learns that there are consequences for what she did. Gabriel, she hurt you, he said, and she threatened you. In my house, with my name attached to her future. That is not something I can overlook. You would end everything. For me, I would end everything that needs to end, he said. For the truth, for what is right. The fact that it is also for you is just. He paused. The universe being poetic. The meeting with his mother happened that afternoon. Gabriel sat across from her in the formal sitting room, the one reserved for conversations that mattered, and said the words she did not want to hear. The arrangement with the Laurent family is off. Gabriel, you cannot simply. I can. I am. It is done. May I ask why? Because I will not marry a thief who destroyed someone to build herself. The silence that followed was sharp. That is a serious accusation. It is a factual statement. I have documentation, financial records, correspondence. Everything Camille Laurent did to steal a company that was not hers alone to take. His mother's face changed. He has done his research. And the woman she stole from? Works in this house, has worked here for nearly 2 months, raised her daughter alone after Camille systematically dismantled her life, never said a word until Camille threatened her directly. Another silence. You care for this woman, his mother said finally. I care about justice, he replied, And yes, I care for her too. The confrontation with Camille happened that evening. She was called to the study, the same study where Zara had first offered her shoe. Gabriel sat behind the desk, calm, cold, the face of a man who had made a decision and saw no reason to be gentle about it. I know what you did, he said. Camille's smile flickered. I do not know what you are talking about. I have the records, all of them, the payments to her boyfriend, the forged documents, the forced buyout, the systematic erasure of her name from everything she helped create. Silence. You have 24 hours to leave the country. After that, I send everything to my legal team and to the press. You would destroy me? Camille's voice was ice. For a janitor? I would destroy you for the truth, Gabriel said. The fact that she happens to be here is just the universe's idea of poetry. She will never be one of us, Camille hissed. She will never fit in your world. My world, Gabriel said quietly, is whatever I decide to make it, and there is no room in it for people like you. He stood, opened the door. 24 hours, he repeated. Do not make me say it again. Vivienne was in the East Garden when he found her, the same garden where Zara had interviewed a beetle, where everything had quietly, impossibly begun. The sun was setting, the light was golden, and she was sitting on the bench where her daughter had swung her blinking pink sneakers, waiting for something she was not sure would come. He sat down beside her. She is gone, he said. I know. Word travels fast in this house. She told you. She did not have to. I found out myself. The silence between them was different now, lighter, full of possibility instead of pain. I did not do it for you, Gabriel said. I need you to understand that. Then why? Because what she did was wrong. Because people who build their lives on stolen foundations do not deserve to keep standing. He paused. And because my daughter needs her shoes tied by someone who knows how to do it properly. And I have not seen anyone else volunteer. Vivienne smiled despite herself. She is not your daughter. Not yet, he said. But I would very much like her to be, if you would let me. She looked at him. This man, who had seen her at her lowest and never once made her feel small, who had fought for justice when he did not have to, who had chosen her and Zara over everything his family expected him to want. Your daughter told me I was lonely, he said. She says that to everyone. She was right. She was right, and I did not know how true it was until I spent 20 minutes in silence with a woman who did not want anything from me except to finish polishing the baseboards. Gabriel, I have been waiting, he said, patiently, the way I wait for everything that matters, for you to see what I see, for you to believe what I believe. And what do you believe? That you are extraordinary, that your daughter is extraordinary, that whatever life you are building, I want to be part of it. If you will have me. Vivienne felt the tears coming again, but these were different tears. Relief, hope, the beginning of something she had been afraid to want. I do not know how to do this, she said. I have not trusted anyone in a very long time. Neither have I. And I have Zara. A complicated history. Nothing to offer someone like, you offered me a shoe once, he said. Through your daughter, as an apology. You said you would have it framed. I did. Silence. You actually framed my daughter's shoe? It is in my bedroom, on the nightstand. I look at it every morning. Why? Because it reminds me that some people offer you everything they have, even when it is just one shoe. And that kind of person, he looked at her, that kind of person is worth waiting for. He reached out, touched her hand, the same gesture from that first day. This time, she did not pull away. Zara said I should get a fish, he said. She has a lot of opinions. She said if I could not get a fish, I should get a mom. She said the same thing to me, about getting a dad. Smart kid. She gets it from me. The corner of his mouth. That thing it did. I know, he said. And he kissed her, gently, like a question. She kissed him back, like an answer. 6 months later, Zara walked into the sitting room of their new home and found Gabriel on one knee. I knew it, she said with enormous satisfaction. I knew it. Vivienne laughed, tears already streaming down her face. Is that a yes? Gabriel asked, looking up at her with something between hope and terror. That is a yes, she said. Zara inserted herself between them, arms wrapped around both their legs. "Can I be in the wedding?" "You can be the whole wedding," Gabriel said. "Good." Zara nodded. "I have decided." And Vivienne, looking at her daughter and the man who had found them when they were not even looking to be found, understood finally what Zara had known all along. Deciding was the point. Deciding to trust again. Deciding to love again. Deciding to believe that the broken pieces of a life could be reassembled into something new, something stronger, something beautiful. She had been so afraid of wanting, so afraid of losing, so afraid of opening her hands and finding them empty again. But here, now, in this room with the evening light coming through the windows and her daughter between them and a man who looked at her like she was the answer to a question he had been asking his whole life. Here, she was not afraid. Here, she was home. And that, beautiful people, is the story of how a 3-year-old with one shoe, a billionaire with a lonely heart, and a woman who had lost everything found exactly what they needed. In the last place they expected to look. If this story touched your heart, do me a favor. Hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to believe in love again, and subscribe to this channel. We tell stories here. Stories about hope, about healing, about the beautiful chaos of being human. I am Mr. Andy, and I will see you in the next one. Take care of your hearts out there.